Hello and welcome to Wheelsboy's coverage of the 2024 Guangzhou International Auto Show. In this video, we're going to take you through the show and show you all of the most exciting debuts. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell because if you didn't hear, Wheelsboy is the #1 source for reviews of Chinese cars. But let's get started. Welcome to Wheelsboy, where we cover the newest, coolest, and wildest vehicles from the Chinese car market. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Beside me is the all-new Lynk Co Z20 compact electric SUV. This actually debuted in Milan back in October. It is the latest model from Lynk Co. This thing shares the same design language as the Z10 sedan, which is absolutely gorgeous, and we happen to have already filmed a review of it that we haven't released yet. If you want to check that out, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. We learned some really interesting information right before the auto show, which is that the Lynk Co brand was going to be joining with Zeekr, which is another brand from Geely, their mother company. What's going to happen is that Zeekr is apparently going to buy out Volvo's part of the Lynk Co brand. Some people remember that this is actually a joint venture between Geely and Volvo that started back in 2017, but now it's a Chinese-only operation. Underneath the skin, this thing is essentially the same as the Zeekr X, which we reviewed way early this year. So be sure to go back and check out that video if you want to know more or less what this is going to drive like. But rest assured, we're probably going to do a review of this thing as well. Rox Motor has brought several special editions of their extended range EV SUV, the 01, to the 2024 Guangzhou International Auto Show, including this, a special fishing edition, which includes fishing pole mounts inside as well as magnetized ones on the outside and a big luggage area in the back where you can put your reels, lures, and everything else. The most interesting special edition on the stand, however, has got to be this, the Falcon Edition, which is made to celebrate the brand's entry into Middle Eastern and North African markets and commemorates the tradition in those regions of bird hunting. It's not only turned from a 3-row into a 2-row vehicle for some incredible rear legroom, but it's also got this special opening in the roof with padded handrails so you can comfortably watch your bird on the hunt. Not only will Rox be entering the Dubai market, however, they're also going to be entering a bunch of other Middle Eastern and North African markets as part of their global expansion plan. The best combination of adorableness and technology here at the show is probably this, a special edition of the Baojun Yep City electric SUV. You're probably tired of hearing me say this, but we did do a full review of this car, so if you want to check it out, you can. It's one of my absolute favorite tiny EVs here in China, but this one's got something very special about it, which you've probably already figured out. All 4 wheels can turn independently, allowing it to spin completely in place like this, as if this absolutely tiny city car wasn't maneuverable enough already. Beside me is a car that is close to my heart, and longtime viewers of the channel will know why. This is the latest generation of the BJ212, an absolute legend in China's off-roading community, and a few years ago, we borrowed one, and much older one, mind you, to do a video, and it's still, to this day, some of the most fun I've ever had making a car review. So I recommend you go back and check that out. But this is a comprehensive upgrade over that car, which was basically a car sold up until 2022 with 1970s technology. I'm actually really happy to say that they've preserved almost all of the special character of the original 212 when it comes to the exterior styling, though I wish they hadn't chosen this particular color, because let's be honest, it emphasizes the fact that this looks, deep down, just like a Toyota FJ Cruiser. Maybe that's one of the reasons I love it so much. They don't provide an official 0 to 100 km/h time for this car, and frankly, I don't care, because it's not about 0 to 100. It's about off-roading, and it's actually going to be quite good at that. For example, approach angle 43 degrees, departure angle 39 degrees, locking diffs, front and rear, all-terrain tires. It's got 4 low, it's got everything you need to essentially be able to conquer anything. The brand says that it can go up to a 100% grade. Another reason I've always enjoyed the 212, it remains very affordable. Here in the Chinese market, it costs just 19 to 26,000 USD. While the exterior styling of this car has honestly remained very consistent between the older and this current generation, the interior is obviously completely different. It's actually that of a modern vehicle. That means a big center screen here, as well as an LCD instrument cluster in front of you, but, and I'm really happy to say this, a ton of physical buttons here for controlling your air conditioning, as well as operating all those locking differentials and the four-wheel low that I mentioned before, and adjusting your off-road modes. It's genuinely refreshing to be able to touch buttons with my hands. It's not just Americans that like big SUVs. Here in the Chinese market, consumers loved them as well, as proven by brands like Li Auto and the success of their giant L9 and Aito and their M9. Seems like this, the HL from HypTech, is trying to go after the same market. The HypTech, formerly known as Hyper, is a sub-brand of GAC. The front row of the HL looks, if I'm being honest, like every other Chinese smart EV you're going to see here at the show. That means a big center screen right here, actually bigger than most. This thing looks to be nearly 20 inches, and a smaller LCD screen that acts as your instrument cluster, as well as an HUD. The backseat also sticks to the features you would expect from a car in this large SUV category here in the Chinese market. Things like the Aito M9, the Li Auto L9, etc., etc. That means a large rear entertainment screen right here, a refrigerated and heated storage cubby right here, and some touch screens for controlling your various seat functions, which include 18-point massage. No word on the exact pricing of this car as of yet, but we do know that it's going to come with a dual motor, all-electric platform with 800 volts charging architecture and 5C charging. Usually that means being able to charge from 10 to 80% in just 10.5 minutes. Bringing things a little bit down market is this, the Aion UT. Aion is yet another sub-brand from GAC. The UT is an ID3 competitor, which makes sense because it reminds me, at least, a little bit of an ID3, as well as other electric hatchbacks from the Chinese market, like the BYD Dolphin. This is a special kind of vintage style version, which has these cool vintage style wheels and color choice. It's not just the exterior of this car, this special edition, that has some vintage looks to it. For example, here on the interior, they've got this, I'll put it right here, amazing carpet trim on the seats. Very grippy. I actually like it quite a bit. The seats themselves are honestly rock hard, but this is a non-production vehicle, so I'll give them a break. Maybe the real version that you're going to see on the roads will be a little bit more comfortable than this. Up in front is, again, the expected large center screen, and then a small instrument cluster right here. Overall space up front actually feels pretty nice for a car this small. This car has a wheelbase of 2.75 meters, so despite being the same length as about a Mini Cooper, it has a pretty decent amount of legroom here, even with the seat adjusted quite far back. Underneath this car is an all-electric platform with a single electric motor making 100 kilowatts or 134 horsepower. The LFP battery is said to deliver a range of up to 600 kilometers on China's generous CLTC cycle. As for prices, we know that it's going to start at under 100,000 RMB or less than 14,000 USD. We first saw this car, the Fangchengbao Bao 8, at the Shanghai Auto Show earlier this year, but we were only able to check out the exterior design. Today, we're going to be looking at the interior and talking about more of the powertrain details. But first, I want to start with some very good news, which is we've learned that BYD is planning on selling the Fangchengbao brand outside of China underneath the Denza branding. So if you're living outside of China, don't worry, this may be reaching your market soon. As with the smaller Bao 5, the Bao 8 uses a plug-in hybrid powertrain. That means it combines a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder up there under the hood with 2 electric motors, one in the front, one in the rear, for even more power than the Bao 5. This time, it's a total of 550 kilowatts or 737 horsepower. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour takes just 4.8 seconds, which is pretty impressive for something that probably weighs as much as a small moon. Underneath of that, and part of the reason it weighs so much, is the fact that it has a 36.8 kilowatt-hour LFP battery pack with a claimed WLTC range of 100 kilometers and a total range, that's gas plus electric, of 1,200 kilometers. The Bao 8 is big, measuring 5.25 meters in length, though I think they're including that spare tire on the back in that overall length, so it's probably just around 5 meters if you don't include that. The wheelbase, 2.92 meters, which, as you'd imagine, is going to be a bit of a handful on an off-road trail. However, they've done whatever they can to make it very capable, including a DCSP or DCS Performance hydraulic suspension with adjustable stiffness and height. The max height is 310 millimeters. It's also got a bunch of different driving modes, off-road modes included, especially one called Violent Mode. Violent Mode apparently allows it to deliver peak torque to individual wheels at as little as 2 kilometers per hour or just over 1 mile per hour. So peak torque to the wheels, and you can control each wheel individually. Maximum approach and departure angles, if you adjust that suspension all the way to its max ground clearance of 310 millimeters, is 34 up front and 35 in the rear. Here on the interior of the Bao 8, which again we're seeing for the first time today, the styling is, unsurprisingly, very similar to that of the Bao 5. So you've got this panel of rocker switches here, which control functions like your four-wheel drive low, as well as turning the car on and off, switching between your hybrid and pure electric modes. You've also, of course, up in front of you got a triple screen display. So two 12.3-inch screens, one instrument cluster, one passenger screen over here on the far right, and in the middle, a 17.3-inch display. This is powered by BYD's latest self-developed chip, the BYD 9000. As for the look and feel of the interior, it is very high-end, I have to say. All the materials that you can see and touch feel very, very nice. There's certainly some plastic. This isn't a Yangwang, that's BYD's highest end brand, and it's also not quite as nice as some of the Denza models that I've been inside of, but this certainly feels and looks like a luxury off-roader. Here in the second row, the first thing that you notice is something I've never seen in another car, which is dual rear screens right here. Now, this seems to be a pre-production vehicle, so some of these buttons aren't actually functioning, but it seems as though both seats have their own screen, or maybe this one on the left controls certain functions, whereas the one on the right controls other functions. Either way, this is definitely the first time I've seen a second row with two different screens here. The car we're sitting in right now has a 2+2+2 for 6-seat configuration, but there will apparently also be a 2+2+3 for a 7-seat configuration as well. With this two-seat in the back, it's very, very comfortable back here. You've got charging ports, you've got a slot for your phone. It definitely feels very, very comfortable. Interesting thing that I'm noticing is this has a very classic SUV kind of seating position to it, which means that the floor back here is actually elevated so you can see over the top of the heads of the front row passengers. Pricing for the Bao 8 here in the Chinese market ranges from 52,500 to 56,500 USD. One of the most hotly anticipated debuts of the 2024 Guangzhou International Auto Show is this, the Denza N9. Denza is a more high-end brand from BYD, and this is their new flagship SUV, measuring around 5.3 meters in length. Now, images of this have already leaked online, both from an advertisement that we're shooting as well as regulatory images, and I have to say, as a huge fan of the Z9 GT, which we did a review of, to say it again, this I'm not as big of a fan of, I have to be honest. This has drawn comparisons to a Range Rover because, let's be honest, it looks like a Range Rover. Here on the front end, it's got that classic smooth Range Rover shape, and on the side, even more Range Rover flavor. Putting aside my initial disappointment, however, I have to say this thing does have a lot to offer when it comes to technology, especially the E3 powertrain system, the same one we saw in the Z9 GT, but even more powerful. It's a tri-motor system that, if the Z9 GT is anything to go by, will have a PHEV and a pure EV version. We only know about the PHEV version of this car right now, and we know that it's even more powerful than the PHEV version of E3 in the Z9 GT. Say that one 5 times fast. In this case, it makes 966 horsepower, so we can expect this absolutely massive vehicle, which weighs more than a small moon, to get to 100 kilometers per hour in probably less than 4 seconds. E3 also means that it has rear steer, and it can use the 3 motors to spin around one of its wheels, locking one of the front wheels and using the 2 rear motors to spin the wheels in opposite directions and basically rotate around the axis, allowing it to do some pretty incredible things that we demonstrated in the Z9 GT video. No specific details on pricing at this point, but you should expect this thing to easily crest 100,000 US dollars here in the Chinese market. Let's end this video on a high note by talking about one of the most expensive Chinese cars at the auto show. This, the all-new Yangwang U7 Executive Super Saloon. Yangwang, as many of you will know, is the high-end brand for BYD, the pinnacle of BYD in terms of quality, technology, and price. This thing is going to be priced at around 1 million RMB, or over 140,000 US dollars. This thing's got the same front-end styling as the Yangwang U9 supercar, which we had a look at static, and I'm really hoping to drive eventually. That means these really dramatic C-shaped front-end lights, as well as a super sleek overall shape. This thing has a coefficient to drag of just 0.195. This thing has a big, wide stance, which indicates power, and power is what it's got. Almost 1,300 horsepower from a four-motor system. It's the same E4 system that you find underneath of the Yangwang U9 supercar. Again, 1,300 horsepower, 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in less than 3 seconds, and it can do all sorts of crazy things like turning the wheels and turning in place. All the crazy stuff you've seen a Yangwang U9 do, this can do it too, especially because it also has the Denza X suspension system. It's a hydraulic system that replaces the shock absorbers with electric motors and uses those to absorb impacts. The interior has that similar Yangwang interior design language from the U8, which means this back here, this kind of second layer, is one single pane that stretches behind the center screen, which has a very interesting feature, which is a curve, a gentle curve to it. As I said when we reviewed the Yangwang U8, this is very expensive to do. It's very cheap these days to go buy a center screen off of the shelf because every supplier has one, but it's very expensive to develop your own with this kind of curve. This has a woven carbon fiber interior trim throughout, mixed with all the beautiful interior lighting. It's got digital rear view mirrors, as you can see on the side here, and the other material qualities, woo, very nice. Very nice. Lots of leather, lots of real carbon fiber, and very little plastic to be found. Here on the round wheel, which is less and less common these days in Chinese cars, they love to use kind of a yoke, you see a beautiful red button down here. This is the stop-start button. Nice and dramatic for a very dramatic sedan. As is appropriate for any executive super saloon, the back seat of the U7 is absolutely incredibly comfortable. It's got adjustable rake, it's got heating, cooling, and massaging, which you control all of that via this little screen here in the center console, which you can adjust the angle of via a button here on the center console. In front of me and the passenger over there is a large entertainment screen, and there is a little step thing, a little a little foot pedestal that you can fold down, put your legs on. It is deeply comfortable back here, and I have to say, I love being surrounded by purple Alcantara. My throat is raw, my feet are sore, and my back is absolutely killing me, which can only mean we've come to the end of today's video from the 2024 Guangzhou International Auto Show. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell because we are going to be bringing you a lot of reviews, including many reviews of the cars that you saw today at the show. So I recommend that you stay tuned for that. And once again, thank you for watching.